Good evening and welcome to Dear Old State Update, brought to you by Penn State Sports Night. I'm Julia Henry, joined by Cassie Vaselis, here to bring you the latest on Penn State sports.
Recently, men's volleyball clinched the EIVA regular season title, and men's lacrosse earned the number 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. Softball was swept by Northwestern, while baseball continued to struggle in conference play. Women's lacrosse played in their final home game of the season. Our beat reporters are here to update you on the latest in the Penn State sports world. Now, on to our Dear Old State update. Before the men's lacrosse team cleaned things up to finish the regular season, they were upset by the Michigan Wolverines on Senior Day. Chase Brosend was there.
On Saturday, April 11th, the Nittany Lions celebrated Senior Day while hosting the Michigan Wolverines in their second-to-last regular season game of the year. After an early goal by Penn State's Hunter Aquino, Michigan swiftly took a 3-1 lead. Penn State continued trailing 5-2 at halftime following a 13-minute scoring drought. In the third, Penn State capitalized off the two-man advantage by shrinking the lead to 1. In a high-intensity fourth quarter, both teams traded goals, leaving the game tied 8-8 with under a minute left. The Wolverines let the clock tick down to under 13 seconds before scoring the game winner. Penn State Senior Day was spoiled by the Michigan Wolverines as they came to town and pulled off a 9-8 upset. Penn State and Nittany Lions started off really slow and really couldn't get the rhythm going from there. With this loss, Penn State falls to 6-5 overall and 2-2 in conference play. Penn State is now 1-3 in unranked matchups. This loss also bumps Penn State's rank down to number 13th in the nation. Penn State coach Jeff Tambroni has more on why his team struggled offensively.
I thought their goalie played really well. I thought, and again, it's 2 weeks in a row. I think the goalie really probably got in our heads a little bit.
The Nittany Lions will hit the road in their last regular season matchup this Saturday night against Rutgers. Since their loss to Michigan, Nittany Lions defeated Rutgers 16-8, earning them their 5th straight Friendship Cup victory. This win solidifies Penn State as a 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. However, before previewing Penn State's future, we must talk about what went wrong in last week's defeat against an unranked Michigan squad. I'm Chase Brosen, joined alongside Connor Patterson to break all down. So, Connor, what went wrong in last week's defeat, and what can they improve on?
Yeah, when they lined up against that Michigan squad, it was just chaos from the start. They went down early. It was 5-2. Weren't winning their face-offs, and they weren't controlling the offense early. They were getting beat on the defensive end. I'll give credit to Michigan's goalie. He did put together an impressive game, more impressive than I thought he was going to do. But it was those face-offs, and then getting behind early. They have struggled with that all year, and it really just caught them in that game against an unranked Michigan, another unranked team that they continue to struggle with, but they beat the top-ranked teams instead.
Yeah, definitely. And as we mentioned, it was Senior Day. The vibes were high, and they just came to town and kind of rained on that parade. But looking on the brighter side of things, Hunter Aquino has officially returned from injury, and he really hasn't seemed to miss a beat. During the team's win over Rutgers, Aquino posted 4 goals along with 1 assist. Another Nittany Lion who had a big game was freshman Andrew Beard with 5 points. I know Aquino has been a big part of this team's success all season, but what does he have to do in the playoffs to really take this team to the next level?
Yeah, in the games he has played in, he's been the clear standout and engine in this offense. The issue is that he missed 5 games in a crucial part of the season, midseason, the beginning of Big Ten play. And then some of those losses they had, which I think if they have him, they swing the other way. He is such a crucial part of this offense. And he is second on the team in scoring, and when you miss 5 games and you can still be second on the team in scoring, his impact showed instantly when he came back for Rutgers. 4 goals, 1 assist. And what I noticed, and like Coach Tambroni mentions sometimes in media, is that he has an impact that goes far beyond scoring. He has an impact that can maybe sometimes draw an extra defender to him or open up a lane for someone else to score. And I think we saw that against Rutgers. And then in Michigan, it was there. There was just some other struggles that ended up catching up to them. But in Rutgers, it really showed that his presence went with scoring, but even more beyond that, because multiple guys had themselves a game.
Yeah, he's definitely proven himself to be the heart and soul of this team, and I think the Penn State's going to go as far as he takes them. But anyway, Penn State has earned themselves a bye this weekend and will return to action on Thursday, April 30th, to face the winner of Maryland and Rutgers. Up next, we look at another team who is preparing for playoffs, Penn State men's volleyball. Emily Carter was at the final regular season series against George Mason.
On April 17th and 18th, Penn State hosted the Patriots of George Mason in its final EIVA regular season series of the year. Friday night, the Nittany Lions battled to a 3-2 win, clinching the EIVA regular season championship and the #1 seed in the conference tournament, with standout performance from Matthew Luoma hitting .378 with a career high of 23 kills. Saturday was a similar story, as the Nittany Lions closed out the regular season with another tightly contested 3-2 victory. But the impact of this weekend extended far beyond the box score. This series marked the end of an era. Friday honored legendary head coach Mark Pavlik in his final season before retirement. After 32 seasons leading the program, Pavlik is closing out one of the most decorated careers in NCAA men's volleyball history. The 10-time EIVA Coach of the Year finishes with more than 700 career wins, a national championship title, and the distinction of being the 4th winningest coach in NCAA men's volleyball history. For players, alumni, and fans inside of Rec Hall, Friday wasn't just about another conference match. It was about celebrating the coach who helped define Penn State men's volleyball.
Like a weekend like this, when you have all the alums back, or celebrating Pav, you kind of understand that you're playing for something bigger than just like personal accolades.
This weekend, Rec Hall became more than just a volleyball venue. It became a celebration of legacy, honoring both the coach who helped build the program and the seniors preparing to leave it behind.
The theme of legacy continued into Saturday as the Nittany Lions celebrated seniors Owen Rose, Ryan Merck, Jackson Herr, and Miller Truby during senior day. As one legendary coach prepares for his final playoff run, a senior class that helped carry that tradition prepares to leave its own lasting mark.
But it's been an honor to go out with these guys, though. It really has been.
The Nittany Lions will host the EIVA playoffs at Rec Hall beginning Wednesday, April 22nd, entering as the #1 seed in the conference with an undefeated 12-0 EIVA record. For Penn State Sports Night, I'm Emily Carter.
Men's volleyball beat George Mason during senior day, finishing EIVA play undefeated. They will host the 6-team tournament as the top seed starting Wednesday. Now, Emily, that crowd at Rec Hall was pretty electric over the last weekend. What players stood out to you the most?
A name that does not need much of an introduction, Matthew Luoma. He has been so electric recently, and this past weekend on Friday, he had a hitting percentage of around .378, but he had a career high 23 kills. But the thing about Luoma is that he's not only a player that has the power, we know he's powerful, but he brings a beautiful balance of control and also volleyball IQ, and a really good hitter. You know, they're going to have the power, but they have to bring that balance. And he brings a beautiful balance of control and both power. And that's what makes him so unstoppable. And I mean, this past weekend, George Mason was one of the better defenses that we've seen them play. However, he knows he makes smart and efficient swings with good ball placement. And that's what makes him so insanely powerful. I also briefly want to mention Michael Schwob, the setter, who has been also such a cornerstone for this team recently. And one thing that Coach Pavlik said in media that really stuck out to me was, you know, a good setter, you want to mark them by the assists that are on the stat sheet, but you can't. A good setter is somebody who, again, has that volleyball IQ, and Schwob has that, and he's demonstrated that throughout this season. He sets up some beautiful plays, and he has such good chemistry with everybody on the court, so I have to point him out. Harlan, what about you?
I want to talk about another guy who had a career high kills on Saturday, true freshman Tristan Hassell.
Yeah.
He was just electric on Saturday. He didn't play a lot Friday, but coming off that Sacred Heart matches, he came alive. And I think his game time playing speaks for himself. And this team has a lot of depth. And what Coach Pav loves to do is switch people out. Not that the starters are doing anything bad, just get some new energy in there, get something different. Every time he goes in, he gets the job done. He does a phenomenal job. And I think heading into the tournament, he's definitely going to be someone to keep his eye on. He started on Saturday. And just, I think you're a guy who had 26 career high kills. That's enough for a whole match.
Right.
So just keeping those out for those guys.
And he's still so young too,
Right.
which is insane.
And this
to
is
think
him at
about.
18 years old. Think about him 2 years in the
Yeah.
program, see what he's going to do. And he was number 1 player in high school. Now he's kind of getting familiar to college play, playing against people who are just as talented as him, not just like people who are not as good as him. So definitely nice to see how he's going to progress.
Exactly.
Definitely. A lot of highlights from those 3 guys this weekend. Now kind of switching over, what were the biggest areas of concern exposed for Penn State over this last weekend against George Mason?
The service errors. They're going to kill me on the service errors. I always take notes of the game, and I was looking at my notebook this morning, and I opened the page, and at the bottom of the page, I just wrote service errors with a frowning face, if that gives you any idea. But truly, this team they've been such a dominant team all season, but they've not always been the most consistent, if we're being honest. And one of those biggest inconsistencies has been their service. And on Friday, they had upwards 20-ish service errors. And when you're getting at this point and going into tournament play, those are big points you're getting up. And at the beginning of the season, it seems like there are those little errors that don't really matter that much, but they add up when you're in tournament play and you're in these tightly contested matchups. And you can't be giving up 20 points in a match due to service errors. Right. So that's going to be a huge thing for them right now.
I want to have another thing. This team starts slow. In the last 4 series, they've gone to 5 matches. And in each of those 4 series, they've been down 2-1 heading into that 4th and 5th set. And kind of flipping it, that's not a terrible thing because when pressure is on them, they do perform well. But why should it take towards the 5th set to actually lock in and play well? And so they need to keep that momentum up. Yes, against George Mason and Penn State this past weekend, Friday and Saturday both went to 5 matches. They were top 3 in the conference. That's gonna those teams are top 3 in the conference. That makes sense. But we're a better team overall. We just need to kind of play better from the very get-go, so we don't have to tire ourselves out and play the whole 5 sets of a volleyball match.
Yeah, and it's like the saying, second half team. It seems like this Penn State team is like a second set team. But yeah, definitely, it's been interesting. They are a slow to start team.
Definitely. Hopefully they can improve on some of those things heading into later this week. Are these issues that they can fix heading into EIVA tournament play?
I think so. And I think I really want to talk about the tournament. It's a home court advantage. And I think a lot of people aren't realizing how big that is. Rec Hall is a historic place. People come to support. On Friday, it was packed. Saturday, we saw a little bit of a less crowd, but that's because the conference was already clinched. A lot of other Penn State sports were happening. It was a beautiful day. Come Thursday, Friday, when these boys play again, that Rec Hall will be packed. And I think just Coach Pav said this in media, just saying it's such an advantage because they can sleep in their own beds. They know the gym. They can go to classes. They don't have to ride on a bus. So I think all those components are really going to give them a leg up going into this tournament. As well as that first round bye. They just played 4 series of 5 sets. These boys need a break.
Yes.
So just using that not playing Wednesday is really going to help them.
Right. Absolutely. And I said this a few weeks ago, but consistency. That's where we're at right now. That's what they need to be focusing on is really ironing out those little mistakes and staying consistent. One thing that Pavlik said in media that stuck out to me, and he says this a lot, but keep the main thing the main thing. Just keeping the main thing, focusing and sticking to what they're good at. One thing he said that was really funny was, Owen, you don't have to serve that ball at 85 miles per hour. That's 60 works just fine. And I think that goes to show that, sometimes when you try to get fancy, you try to go outside of what you're good at. It tends to get a little messy. So I think if they play clean volleyball, they stick to what they're good at and keeping the main thing, I think they're going to be pretty golden and be successful in this tournament.
Certainly. Hopefully they have some success this weekend. Just last weekend, the women's lacrosse team faced the current number 1 team in the country, the Northwestern Wildcats. Erin Riley has the story.
Number 18, Penn State women's lacrosse hosted number 4 Northwestern at home on April 12th. This game was especially meaningful, being that it was Youth Lacrosse Day, where the next generation of players got to rally behind the Lions. The last 3 matchups the Lions have faced were all ranked within the top 11 in the IWLCA poll and caused some shakeup in the Penn State offense. With help from the youth athletes, the women's lacrosse program now holds a new attendance record of 1,115. Head coach Kayla Trainer acknowledges this effort from the fans.
I think it's a lot of credit to what we're trying to build here and people coming out and supporting us. And we're so appreciative of all these young kids coming out and supporting us and, just trying to put on a good performance for them to enjoy.
In this game, Northwestern dominated Penn State in draw controls, beating Penn State 21-9. In the first half, Penn State was able to briefly take the lead and keep momentum, repetitively tying the game until the middle of the second. In between the second and third quarter, Penn State had a near 18-minute scoring drought where Northwestern was able to capitalize, netting 4 goals during that period. Following that drought, Peyton Wainman would secure the draw, lead the team downfield, and answer back for the Lions. Northwestern was able to secure 10 more shots on goal than Penn State during the game and keep the ball in their offensive possession, ultimately winning the matchup 17-12. Coach Trainer talks about their need to play with more discipline.
But we really, it's as simple as we lost in the end of the second and the third. And when you're playing against a great team, they will capitalize on your mistakes. So, the unforced turnovers really killed us in the clear as well. So we have to clean it up, and we got to play a little bit more disciplined to come out on the other side of this.
Penn State now looks ahead to their last home game and their whiteout as they take on Johns Hopkins on April 16th. Reporting for Penn State Sports Night, I'm Erin Riley.
Penn State women's lacrosse has closed out their first regular season of the Kayla Trainer era. The team finished 12-5 and proved that they could be a major player in the NCAA for seasons to come. The team played 3 ranked teams in the end of their regular season slate, 2 of which are ranked in the top 10. The Nittany Lions lost both of those top 10 matchups, falling to a now second-ranked Northwestern team 17-12, while they lost 10-9 in overtime to number 7 Johns Hopkins. But things would finish out sweet as the blue and white beat number 22 Rutgers on the road 18-15. I'm Isaac Allock alongside Carly Martich and Erin Riley. All things considered, a big step up from a 7-9 season last year. But looking big picture, what did Penn State really get right this year that led to this 12-5 season?
I think having this be Trainer's first season at Penn State, it's proven that they have the identity and the power to be a really competitive team in the Big Ten playoffs, also just throughout the whole season. I know early on we all saw the game against their senior day, and it wasn't their best performance, but I think Trainer mentioned something really important at the end. She was just like, we really need to unlock our offense and really just take control early on. And I think I love about her that she's like very positive, confident in the team. And I think this year that's what's clicking for them. Confidence, more chemistry on the field, and just equally distributing the ball and like offense, defense, having both ends very well and balanced.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the chemistry on the team. They had 86 assists in 2025. Then they jumped to 143 assists in 2026. Now that's a big jump, and it goes to show the chemistry on the field and what they're building in this program. Coach Trainer coming from her alma mater, that's a huge deal. Taking the Orange 4 times to the NCAA tournament, then coming to Penn State, she's able to improve their record a ton and be in the talks with these top contenders. I think that's really what's setting this team apart. They just need to focus a little bit more on their defensive side.
Yeah, definitely offense is clicking so far for them. I think that's really good head start for them so far.
Exactly. And we talk about, in the Northwestern game that we just saw, they had a tense record of 1,115, and it just goes to show the program that she's building here, not just the team, but the program itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. To that point, it really says a lot. They were able to pull her from her alma mater where she had a very good playing career, and then as a coach over at Syracuse, huge that they were able to get Coach Trainer. But again, looking at so much good, 12-5 on the season, but maybe a little bit to the bad. Some of those 5 losses, all against ranked teams. 4 of those 5 against teams that had been at the time ranked in the top 10. Still, many of them are.
Yeah.
What's it going to take for this Penn State team to really get over the hump and beat some of these top teams? Of course, Penn State a ranked squad as it is, but specifically maybe looking a little bit into next year. But of course, we'll talk about a little bit more of this Big Ten tournament coming up. What does Penn State need to do to make that next step?
So in the Northwestern game, they were 21-9 in draw controls. I mean, they need to really fix that. They can't afford that. And they're also not forcing turnovers as much as they are forcing shots on goal and goals itself. So I think that they're really dominant on the offensive side. They just need to focus a little bit more on getting more ground balls, getting those forced turnovers, and just really capitalizing on these draw controls. I mean, I think that that's their biggest thing that they need to focus on.
Yeah, and there's moments where Penn State looks like a top 10 team, but then those other elite competitors, they come in and they take control, and that's what hurts them later on in the game. They can't secure that win very late, and I feel like it's just a lack of consistency defensively. They just cannot hold that offensive half field too, and they need to find a go-to scorer later on in the game that's going to secure them in crunch time, honestly.
Yeah, exactly, and you just mentioned that. In Northwestern, they had a near 18-minute scoring drought. I mean, that obviously does stuff to your confidence, and it was depleted. They had the attendance record within that game. They have this big crowd behind them, but yet you can just tell throughout the fans, you can tell throughout the team itself. Trainer talked about it. They just their energy wasn't there throughout the game, and they're not able to finish at the end.
Yeah, and it's one thing to play a game, but it's another thing to finish a game. And I think all 60 minutes, it's consistency. And we've seen it in every Penn State sport. I mean, softball, they need momentum. Baseball, they need momentum. Even volleyball, like it's every Penn State sport, and that's so important that consistency is their key. Staying on top of it all throughout the game.
Yeah.
Way to throw in all the other programs in there as well.
Yeah.
But looking at Penn State women's lacrosse, next up, the Michigan Wolverines, a team, as we alluded to, we saw at home on senior day, losing that one 11-6. That offense just never really got going for Penn State. That's who Penn State has to face in the quarterfinals of this Big Ten tournament. And Michigan gets to host the Big Ten tournament. So back in Ann Arbor, what is Penn State going to have to do to pull this one out this time around?
So Michigan, really, they like to slow the game down. They like to rush shots as much as they can from their opponents. So again, those draw controls, securing that offensive rhythm early on in the game is really going to give them a head start. Senior day, it was just unfortunate. They just didn't click early on. And it was sucked because they had such a good, fan, like the stands were packed. They were so, the energy was there. They just weren't executing it on the field.
Yeah, I mean, they only had 6 goals in the game. That's their lowest scoring total of the entire season, and they're facing them now in the tournament. I mean, I think that they definitely have that underdog fire coming into it. They lost in their senior game. They want to do this for their seniors. They want to do this for their team, for a trainer herself that came in and has started to rebuild this program entirely. So I really think that if they can get past Michigan and really focus on their defensive side more so and really just get more offensive possession time, I think that it's a fair game. And focusing a little bit on if they can get past the Wolverines, I think that the Northwestern game is a fair matchup. I mean, it was 17-12, and they just looked a lot better against, I think, Northwestern than they did Michigan. I mean, it was slower offensively, obviously, in the Michigan game with only 6 goals and 12 against Northwestern. So I think that one's a little bit more of a fair matchup, but they have to get past Michigan.
And again, they've seen both of these teams. They have the ability. They know what to do. Trainer with her background, she can give the players that confidence, set them up for success. It all just comes down to how they're going to execute on game day.
Exactly.
Looking to go further in the Big Ten tournament they did last year, where they lost to Johns Hopkins. That was played out at Maryland. So Penn State and Michigan battle it out on a Wednesday at noon. The winner of the contest, as we mentioned, plays the 1 seed in Northwestern on Friday. Up next, we'll take a look at the state of Penn State softball. Gina Scarpa was at that series against Northwestern.
Penn State softball hosted the Wildcats of Northwestern for a 3-game set at Beard Field this past weekend. The Nittany Lions came in with momentum after back-to-back Big Ten Series sweeps, but ran into a surging Wildcats squad. A tough weekend for Penn State here at Beard Field on their alumni and family weekend. The Nittany Lions pitching staff was unable to contain an explosive Northwestern offense, leading to a Wildcat sweep. Northwestern took all 3 games, powered by a dominant offensive showing. The Wildcats outscored Penn State 38-9 over the weekend, including 2 run rule victories in games 2 and 3. They racked up 39 hits compared to just 9 for the Nittany Lions. Northwestern's pitching quieted Penn State's offense, led by ace Marina Mason. Across games 1 and 3, Mason struck out 15 and allowed just 5 runs on 5 hits in 11 1/3 innings pitched. Head coach Clarissa Crowell acknowledged the team's struggles, saying Penn State will look to improve as it enters a crucial stretch of road games.
We've got to pitch better, play better defense, and we've got to offensively we have to be better. And we're just not playing to the level that we should be playing at, and that's what we need to fix. So we've got to play to our standard. Really doesn't matter right now who's on the other side. We just as a team have to be better.
Despite the results on the diamond, it was a special weekend in Happy Valley as Penn State welcomed back alumni, family, and friends for a full circle moment at Beard Field. The Nittany Lions will now hit the road to face the Ohio State Buckeyes and fight an Illini of Illinois before returning home for their final series against Nebraska. Reporting for Penn State Sports Night, I'm Gina Scarpa.
Penn State softball has been nonstop the past 2 weeks, though they have only won 2 of their last 7 games. 3 of those losses came from the Northwestern series, though Tuesday, an out-of-conference matchup against Bucknell gave Penn State some of their momentum back after an 11-3 victory, before heading into an on-the-road series versus Ohio State, where they unfortunately dropped 1-2 on the series. I'm Kylie Smith here at Gina Scarpa and Brady Welsh. So, Brady, Gina, It has been a beautiful past few weekends to play some softball, yet this Penn State team just cannot seem to get into a rhythm. What is happening to this team that we know can be so explosive? Where are they struggling?
I mean, the fact of the matter is they're just not playing to their standard. 2-5 in their last 7 games. They had momentum going into the Northwestern series, but it was quickly shut down because their bats could not get going. Northwestern's ace, Marina Mason, threw 5 no-hit innings in game 1. Same story on Sunday for game 3. She threw, I think, 6 innings, limiting them to just 2 runs, and scoring only 9 runs on 9 hits in 3 games is not a good look. I mean, we know how explosive the offense can be, like you said. Similar story for Ohio State. I mean, they had that morale-boosting win against Bucknell, but it didn't really help them out. The only time we saw the bats going was on Tuesday in their 15-7 win against Ohio State, but the rest of the series completely zeros across the board for the most part. I mean, they lost via the run rule on Sunday against Ohio State 9-0. So some of these pitchers are really just throwing 5 and 6 innings of shutout ball against this offense, and they really need to start getting going.
Yeah, I agree with you, but it's also sort of their youth. They have 7 freshmen on the team, and the good part is a lot of them are the best players on this team. So you got a bright future, but this is the concern with a young team like this. Sometimes you're going to go on runs like this where you're just inconsistent. They're still trying to find themselves as softball players, and you're seeing it on this run right now, and especially against Northwestern. I mean, they haven't beaten Northwestern since 2011. It's been 15 years since they beat Northwestern. So when a team just owns you like that and can come in and just beat you around like they do every time in these past 15 years, you're gonna struggle. And also against Bucknell, that was promising to me. You can beat the teams that you're supposed to beat, and that's, I think, what they want to build on this entire year with this young group.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting because, yes, we've seen their batsmen. We've seen them get home run after home run after home run, and it just doesn't land sometimes. It's very give and take. But looking forward and keeping all of that in mind, who do you think from the Penn State team can get Penn State some momentum back and get them out of this slump?
Definitely Natalie Alito. I mean, she's a very underrated piece of this team. Also a youngster, but she's a sophomore, not a freshman. But she has improved from her stellar freshman season last year, and she did have that rough game in center field against Northwestern. She dropped 2 balls, which both led to multiple runs, which cannot happen, especially since she was a Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year last season as a freshman. So she knows she can be better. We know she can be better. Her team knows she can be better. And at the plate this year, and since that Northwestern game, she has been fantastic for this bottom of the lineup, hitting .331, just hit her 10th home run against Ohio State. So she's going to be pretty key to turning this lineup over to Brianna Hannock, Allison One-Acre, Brooke Clausewitz, the top 3, and just going off and continuing to rake as she has.
Yeah, I mean, someone I'm going to be looking at, someone we've been watching all season long. Allison One-Acre just shattered the single-season RBI record with 55 RBIs, and she's just adding to her very impressive freshman campaign. I mean, she's doing everything that they need her to. She did that on Saturday against Ohio State in a multi-home run performance, adding to that 15-7 win that they had, and they put up a 10 spot in the 6th inning. I mean, that's really where we saw their offense shine, and she was a huge part of that game. So if she can continue on this way, she has such a bright future, and she's still growing and still learning, but she's doing amazing as it is. And if she can keep going and get this offense really going moving forward in the season, things are looking up for them.
Absolutely. And like you said, you mentioned a freshman and a sophomore. So this is definitely a young team, and it'll be interesting to see how it can add to team chemistry moving forward. And maybe that's an issue, but they always seem so together and happy on the sidelines. So I'm just wondering, where do they go from here? What needs to be changed as they move forward in Big Ten play?
I mean, looking ahead, their next series is going to be at Illinois, and Illinois is at the bottom of this conference. So I don't think it should really be a problem for Penn State. I think the biggest thing, they need to be more consistent on offense. They're putting together really good at-bats, but they're unable to string hits together when they have runners on base, and the runners aren't coming around to score. So that's their biggest issue. I mean, the defense and the pitching was better at Ohio State than it was for Northwestern, but the offense, really, they need consistency in that area.
Yeah, but also I agree with you with that offense. It's been very inconsistent just because they're so young. But also to help out that offense, you need to help out your pitchers. And that's where the defense comes in. A lot of defensive miscues against Northwestern. Maybe the sun was getting in their eyes. A lot of night games coming up, though. You got at Illinois, as you said. I'm pretty sure all three of those are night games. St. Francis is also a night game. Their next home game tomorrow. And then you play some weak teams like those, you could get back on a stretch because you're right now 10th in the Big Ten. You're just in there to make the Big Ten tournament right now with 7 games to go. And your last series is against Nebraska, who is 17-1 against the Big Ten. They're in first. With the way things are going right now, I can't say that could be pretty to watch. I'm going to be honest. I can't say that's going to be pretty to watch in those last 3 games. So you really need to beat up on St. Francis, beat up on these lesser teams. And that's what they've been doing this entire year. So I do have faith in them to beat up on St. Francis and Illinois and win these 4 games to pretty much propel them into the Big Ten tournament.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting. I think night games always bring kind of a different energy also. But if everyone gets behind the ball, hopefully that's what gets swinging.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we know what this team is capable of when everyone's behind their balls and gets their bat swinging. Like I said, softball is back at home tomorrow for another out-of-conference matchup versus St. Francis as they work to get back in the win column. A team that has also struggled to be in that column is Penn State baseball. Brianna Langberg was at their series against Rutgers.
This past weekend, Penn State baseball faced Rutgers in their 6th Big Ten series of the season. The Nittany Lions entered the series after dropping 2 of 3 at Ohio State, sitting at the bottom of the conference at 4-13, still searching for a way into the win column. Friday's game started quietly with both teams held scoreless through the first 2 innings, but that changed quickly as Rutgers broke through in a big way, putting up a 10-run inning sparked by a Jack Sweeney RBI single.
That hurts my soul, that inning, because it's the exact opposite of who we have been, who we want to be, who we're trying to be.
Rutgers kept the pressure on, adding more runs, while Penn State struggled to keep pace, managing just 2 runs through the first 4 innings. The Nittany Lions showed late life in the 9th, scoring 4 runs, but the rally fell short as they dropped Game 1 13-11. Heading into Game 2, head coach Mike Gambino emphasized bunt defense as a key focus.
Because we're going to work on bunt defense tomorrow morning. So I am kind of carrying some of this forward, but we're going to work on our bunt defenses and then go play a baseball game.
Offense was hard to come by in Game 2 at Medler Field. Penn State's only run came on an RBI single from McDonald that scored Porter. But that would be all the Nittany Lions could muster. Rutgers gradually built a lead, scoring 4 runs through 8 innings. Penn State finished with 7 hits, but just 1 run, unable to capitalize with runners in scoring position.
We couldn't get the big hit at the end, and we couldn't string the hits together. It was like they were just scattered. When you scatter the hits without the walks and there's not a slug, that's what ends up happening.
Sunday brought a very different story for Penn State as the Nittany Lions erupted for 14 runs, highlighted by back-to-back-to-back home runs from Michael Anderson, Bryce Molinaro, and Spencer Barnett, building a 12-run lead through 6 innings. But the momentum shifted quickly as defensive mistakes opened the door for Rutgers, who exploded for 10 runs across the 7th and 8th innings. Despite holding a 12-run lead through the 6th, head coach Mike Gambino stressed his concern not ending the game after the 7th in a 10-run rule. Fans were on the edge of their seats in the 9th after Rutgers had a leadoff home run, but Penn State held on to secure the 14-13 win, snapping a 5-game losing streak. The Nittany Lions continue at home Tuesday at 5:30, hosting Bucknell for Dollar Dog Night. For Penn State Sports Night, I'm Brianna Langberg.
A familiar storyline continues to unfold for Penn State baseball after losing 2 of 3 games to Rutgers at home. It feels like the same story over and over again for this Nittany Lions team, and head coach Mike Gambino has continued to express his frustration with the team's inability to respond rather than react. And although Sunday's win was highlighted by one of Penn State's strongest offensive performances and served as a major morale boost heading into their trip to Oregon with home runs from Michael Anderson, Spencer Barnett, and 2 from Bryce Molinaro, defensive mistakes continue to be a breaking point for this team.
I'm Brianna Langberg, and I'm here with Sydney Cox and Brian Portney to unpack another eventful home series. Now, guys, like I mentioned, it seems like we're watching the same game over and over and over again. And on Friday's game, head coach Mike Gambino, he pointed directly at the fact that this team is just not able to capitalize with runners in scoring position. And that was a huge reason for Friday's loss. What are you guys seeing?
I mean, first off, Friday's game, perfect baseball weather. I mean, it was set up to be a beautiful day, beautiful game. And it was kind of looking like that for the first 2 innings. And then you got to the third, and it was arguably one of the worst innings of baseball I have ever seen.
Yeah,
I think
it
everybody
was
over
rough.
there. Rutgers put up 10 runs in that inning. And luckily, Penn State was kind of able to bounce back a bit. They were able to put up 10 runs for the rest of the inning, but fortunately it just wasn't enough. I mean, they couldn't really do much, and they weren't really able to put up the rest to kind of put up to Rutgers 13. And unfortunately, they left 14 runners in scoring position, which is insane compared to Rutgers 4 that they left stranded.
Yeah.
So when you do that, I mean, you just can't translate that. You can't keep doing that. And I think that's a struggle that they've been dealing with all season. I mean, when they were at Ohio State, they left 10 in both the second and third game. And when you keep doing that, you're not going to get those runs in, obviously. And I mean, look at this. It's 14 on Friday, Saturday, 7, Sunday, 7. This is the 6th straight with 6 more. It's going to be a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about that 10-run inning in the third. Really, for Penn State, it is they'll at least have one element of their game that is on point every single time. But it's just that it's one thing or the other. And we saw some issues in the field on Friday. Only 4 of those 10 runs were earned to Colin Fitzgerald. And then the hitting on Saturday and last Wednesday in Hagerstown against West Virginia, the hitting, only 1 run.
Yeah.
I mean, across 7 hits, but still. And then pitching, really late in that game against Rutgers on Sunday was the thing again. This team just cannot string all 3 elements together to have a complete game.
Yeah, I mean, there was 3 pitching changes by like the 5th inning, and we've seen that in multiple games too.
Yeah, and then Saturday's game, neither team was really able to get their bats going, and then it just became a huge pitching duel. But you look at the stats, and Penn State, they had 7 hits, but only 1 run from Jack Porter. What really isn't translating for this team, because we're seeing it over and over and over again?
Yeah, I mean, right now, Cole Mercado, he's still day-to-day. He was ruled out for the entire series, so that's one thing. But one thing, the thing about that is that an injury to one player can really impact the lineup so much.
Yeah.
You have Bryce Molinaro going to second. You have Spencer Burnett going to third.
Right.
Kevin Carson going to first. And then you've got Jaden Davis playing in the field for the first time in his college career, which is just going to kind of change things up. Jaden Davis goes to leadoff, goes from the 6th spot to leadoff, and really those changes in the lineup are going to cause some inconsistency just naturally.
Speaking of inconsistencies, I mean, we're just not seeing things translate. Even when we are getting those hits, people aren't getting those runners off the bases.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at these and it's like, yeah, 7 hits, 1 run, but they hit for 212 as a team on Saturday. Not only that, they hit for 125 with runners in scoring positions. Rutgers hit for 400. I mean, that's why they won this game. It was a low-scoring game, especially compared to Friday, but still, doesn't matter. You got to get those runs in. Like I keep saying, you're leaving people out there. You're leaving precious runs. And yeah, the offensive side, you got to put it all together. It's a problem.
Yeah. And then obviously Sunday felt very different from these 2 games. It felt different in the beginning. Penn State offense exploded. They had a 12-run lead, but then they let that all go as they couldn't respond to Rutgers' 11 runs. And you know, we're seeing this over and over and over again, but now they're heading to Oregon, who has one of the best hitting lineups, and they're going to need to be able to compete. So how are they going to be able to do that?
I'm hoping that they can take what they showed on Sunday and bring it with them.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things, I noticed this from media on Friday when we were there, and coach was saying, like, hopefully they can kind of let go of this game, go home, and then come back on Saturday. And they did, but kind of obviously wasn't what we wanted to see. But I think that they need to take this and take it with them.
Yeah.
It's about bringing it all together, whether it's the pitching, whether it's the defensive side, offensive side, they need to put it all together and bring it with them. It's momentum, it's consistency, it's energy. They just need to put it all together and actually carry it in. If you have an off game, you need to take that fire that has hopefully lit underneath you and bring it with you. It's not just, oh, we need to put it behind us and move on. That should be lighting a fire within you to move on to the next game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a big thing of that Rutgers comeback on Sunday was the wind was really blowing out. It's kind of forcing those errors, kind of forcing balls to go out of the arc, kind of like how Penn State was getting the bat to the ball early on. And, I mean, the thing is, don't know how the wind conditions are going to be out in Eugene, but I mean, obviously Oregon's got a great hitting lineup, especially with Gabe Miranda, that Northern Kentucky transfer. So, I mean, it really can be a tough hitting lineup. We see what Penn State does when they're faced with a tough hitting lineup. Texas Tech series was pretty awful for the pitching staff, drove everybody's numbers up. And Penn State, hoping not to see that again, is just have to play the best ball at the end of the year, like Mike Amina talked about. And they just have to continue to do that. And once again, I mean, it's just about team belief, and it's about those three things you talked about.
And it really is just putting it all together. And we've seen so many series this past year where it's one or the other. And whether it's putting so many pitchers out there on the field, or it's you see a great home run and it's the huge hits and then it's a small ball and then there's nothing else behind it. You really just got to hope for the best at these points, and you shouldn't have to. It should be everything coming together at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, like you guys said, Coach Gambino talks a lot about just it really comes down to stringing things together. So Oregon's going to be a huge test for them, and it's going to be interesting to see what version of that Penn State team that is going to show up and be competitive. But before that, Dollar Dog Nights aren't over just yet. There's another one coming up this Tuesday as Penn State hosts Bucknell. And then after that, the Nittany Lions hit the road for a 3-game series against Oregon. Now we send it over to Julia and Cassie with our top plays.
At number 4, Penn State men's volleyball took on George Mason. There's a dig from Tristan Hassel, and then a scramble at the net and a kill from Sean Harvey.
At number 3, Michaela Barbadente hit a home run out to right center field during Penn State's 11-3 win against Bucknell during Dollar Dog Night and Country Night.
At 2, George Mason loses the ball over the back line, brings it back into play, and then there's a block from Tristan Hassel, Owen Rose, and Bennett Wilson.
At number 1, Michael Anderson skied the ball out for a home run against Rutgers. He is the leader in the Big Ten in home runs with 16. Rutgers took home the series 2-1.
Baseball welcomes Bucknell for Dollar Dog Night on Tuesday. Softball takes on St. Francis on Tuesday as well. Women's lacrosse travels to Michigan to face the Wolverines in the Big Ten tournament on Wednesday. Tournament play also happens here in Happy Valley, where men's volleyball faces either Charleston or Sacred Heart.
Football's blue-white practice takes place in Beaver Stadium on Saturday, starting at 1 p.m. For more content, be sure to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and X, and look out for weekly sports updates and packages. For everyone in the studio and for Julia Henry, I'm Cassie Vaselis. Have a great night.